Okay, hello everyone. Welcome back to another live community classroom with Michaels and happy I Love Yarn Week. We have our friend Marley Bird with us today for Granny Squares for beginners or easy Granny Squares or easy Granny Square coasters, whatever we like to call it. My name is Renee L. from Yarn Inspirations, and I'll be helping with any questions you might have during today's class. Please feel free to drop your questions in the chat and we'll make sure that Marley answers them. While we're getting ready to kick things off, let us know where you're watching from and if this is your first time making a square.
Yeah.
Over to you, Marley.
Hello. Hi, everybody. I love seeing so many familiar names here in the chat. So welcome. As Renee and Ilse, I want to say Ilse, I'm not going to say it right. Michaels.
Oh, you
What
said it really well.
did I? Okay. What they mentioned is we're going to make some granny square coasters. Now, I want to start off because this is a beginner class. I want you to understand that there are many different ways to make a granny square. And the method we are going to use today will be the one for the easy square crochet coaster. Renee has put a link to that in the chat. So hopefully you have this pattern. This is the one we will be following along with today. I also have included a link to a stitch diagram in the chat. Renee put that in there, and we're going to refer to that a little bit today as well. So that way you can kind of get used to seeing what a stitch diagram, how that represents the words and how it represents what you're doing with your hook and your yarn. And it's all going to come together and hopefully work out pretty well for you. Now, because this is a beginner class, I always start my beginner classes with sort of a disclaimer where I want you to know that I'm so excited you're here, and it is possible you're going to pick up your hook and your yarn and it's going to just flow like butter, like it's just going to work. But more often than not, it takes a little time for your body to get used to working with the hook and the yarn, and your eyes reading your instructions and having your hands do the stuff. Like, it's tricky. So you have to promise me that you will not get frustrated, that you will give yourself some grace, and just know, work along with me at your own pace today. And this video is recorded, so it will be on the Michaels YouTube channel. You can go back and watch it again. And I actually recommend that. If you follow along with me today, work on it a little bit, put it down, and then pick up your work again tomorrow. Watch the video again tomorrow, play with it again, put your work down, pick it up the next day. Give yourself time to get used to the stitches, get used to working in the round, and it will become easier and easier. Okay. All right. So having said that, I'm going to jump down to my hands here. And this is what we're creating, you guys. So this here is a granny square. If you don't know what that is, it's really a quintessential crochet stitch pattern. So many people have grown up with granny square blankets, granny square purses, granny square vests that maybe their grandma have made them. And it's a very easy stitch to do because you only need to know how to do double crochets and chains. All right. This whole thing is made with double crochets and chains. As a matter of fact, it's made with 3 double crochets together, and I call those a granny. It's a granny set, is what I call those. It is not a cluster. A cluster is a different type of stitch. Okay. Because each of these double crochets are independently made, they are independent double crochets put together in a set. So they're a double crochet set. Okay, so what we will do is we're going to start right down here in the middle with some chains, excuse me, and we will join with the slip stitch to create a ring. Then from there, we will work some chains to create our quote unquote turning chain. We are not actually going to chain or turn our work. So it's our beginning chain. And that chain 3 will count as a double. And then we'll put 2 other doubles with it so that we get our granny set. Then we'll work a corner, get a granny set, work a corner, get a granny set, work a corner, get a granny set, work a corner, and join with a slip stitch. So we'll get this little start right here. Okay. As you're following along with your pattern, you can use really any worsted weight yarn you want. I am using some Red Heart Super Saver yarn today. I'm sorry I don't have the label on it, otherwise I would tell you what color this is. I don't know. And I am going to be using an eye hook. So this is a size 9 or a 5.5 millimeter hook. If you're using a Susan Bates hook, it's the red one. Okay. So I'll be using one of these. You'll see the pattern says 3 different colors. That's because if this was printed in color, each one of these are in color. So you could make 2 granny squares of each color if you wanted. And this pattern in particular is different than most other patterns because Yarnspirations has included a photo tutorial to go along with the written instructions, which is helpful if you're not anywhere close to a video that you can watch with me, right? But it's helpful so you can quickly kind of see where it is you're going to be placing your hook and how you'll be working those stitches. But we're going to do that together in the video. It only is 4 rounds. So once you get the hang of round 2 and 3, 4 is a piece of cake. And that's really the biggest information from this. Of course, we give a gauge, which is the measurement of your stitches. We are not going to worry about that at all. And I think that's about it. Everybody good so far? Yeah, you have your pattern, you have your hook, you have your yarn. Perfect. All right, so we're going to get started. And it actually starts on page 2. I'm going to move this sort of up out of the way. And what you'll notice here on the chart is we will begin right here. All right here in the middle. And what you can see there is it's 4 ovals, right? Those ovals, those count as a chain. So those ovals, they're chains. So we're going to put a slip knot on our hook and we're going to do 4 chains. And that dot there is a slip stitch. So we're going to do 4 chains and then join with a slip stitch. All right. So I do have some stitch markers here so that we can use those to help you out as much as possible. But let's get started. Go ahead and grab your yarn and we'll start off with our slip knot. You can make a slip knot however you want. This is how I like to make mine. I put the tail of the yarn in the palm of my hand. I take my working yarn, I wrap it around my forefinger and my middle finger. And when I come back up, I cross over. Okay. Still holding onto my yarn, I rotate my hand. Now I'll go underneath this front loop, grab that back loop, and pull it off. I've created a slip knot, which if I pull my ends apart, poop, it goes away. All right, I'm gonna do it one more time. Tail in the palm of my hand, then I hold it, working yarn, wrap it around my forefinger and middle finger, and as I come back up, instead of coming back up just like this, I cross over. Hang on to the yarn still, rotate your hand, then this, I hold it right here so that it's still holding some tension. I go underneath the front loop on my fingers, grab the back loop of my fingers, and pull it off. And as you pull the 2 legs apart, it will tighten that loop. Once you have your slip knot, go ahead and place it directly onto your hook. All right. You can hold your hook like a pencil. You can hold your hook like a knife. Either way works for you. If you're not really familiar with which way is best for you, pick one that feels like the most natural. I know a lot of people will try it like a pencil because we're so used to holding pens and pencils to begin with. And so that's how I like to hold mine. You want to hold some tension on your yarn over here. And as a beginner, you're going to try a bunch of different ways until you find a way that becomes comfortable for you. For me, I'm going to show you how I do this so that way as you come back to the video and want to try it, you can. But I have my left hand here. I take my pinky and I come up against the tail, not the tail, the working yarn, and I wrap it around my working yarn. Can you see that? Okay. And then these 3 fingers here, I come around and I tuck them underneath. All right. So I grab that working yarn with my finger, my pinky finger, I come underneath. Once you have some tension on your yarn, I like to grab that knot right there, again, to give myself some tension. And then this is where I start doing my chains. Again, remember you guys, you're going to give yourself some grace. I make it look easy. I've been doing this more than 20 years. So you're going to be just fine as you go along. When you do a chain, you're going to take your yarn, you're going to go behind your hook and yarn over top of your hook. That's called a yarn over. Once you've done that, we're going to pull that yarn you just pulled over your hook through the loop on your hook. So we're going to pull it through the loop on our hook. And that's 1 chain. I adjust my fingers where I'm holding the stitches and I'm holding my chain and I do it again. Yarn over my hook and pull through the chain. yarn over my hook, and pull through the loop on my hook. I'm sorry. Yarn over my hook, pull through the loop on my hook. So I have 4 chains now, and I can see that because I can see those V's. Can you see it's like a V on the top of the chains there? So I never count the loop on my hook as a stitch. So you never, ever, ever count that. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Now what I'm going to do is work a slip stitch right here into this first stitch. So that way we can get a ring. But before I do that, I'm going to show you guys something, because this is one of those things where people will usually create the ring and then they don't see what the next step is. I'm just going to take a marker, and I'm literally just putting a marker around, like it's just around the stitches I just did. Okay. It's not in any one stitch particular. I'm just putting it there. You don't have to do this, but what this is going to do is when I come over here to the very first stitch, insert my hook, yarn over my hook again, and then pull that through the stitch I went into, and then pull it through the loop on my hook. I've created a ring, which it's hard to see, but I've put that marker there. So the marker is literally in the middle of my ring. So it gives you a visual of where the middle of that ring is. Okay. Now, remember, I'm going to keep going along here, and I will be able to go back and redo some things, but I'm going to move along. Just go at your own pace. Remember to go at your own pace. Once we hit this point, it's time that we go on to the very first round here. And what we begin with is we begin by chaining 3 chains. So we're going to do chains again, and we're going to chain 3. And that chain 3 counts as a double crochet. So I'm going to put here the chain 3 counts as a double crochet. Okay. The reason I want you to make sure you understand that is because once we do that chain 3, we're then going to put 2 double crochets into that space, and that will give us our 3 double crochet, which is our granny set. So 3 double crochets as they're all in one space. I call it a granny set. Okay. It is not a cluster. It's a granny set. It's a set of 3 stitches. Okay. So we're going to do our 3 chains. So you just hold your work like here. Don't turn it. Don't do anything. We're going to go around our hook, pull through the loop, around our hook, pull through the loop, around our hook, pull through the loop. Okay. Because I know that 3rd chain right there is going to count as the end of my row, since it's a double crochet, I want to actually put a stitch marker into that 3rd chain. So again, I'm not looking at the loop on my hook. I'm looking at the V behind the loop on my hook, and I'm just going to put a marker literally into that stitch. Okay. Literally into where I did that stitch. Now, this is where I come down here where the hole is here. This is my ring, and I'm going to do double crochets. So I need to do 2 double crochets. So I yarn over my hook, come here, like right where my marker is. I'll just stick my hook right into where my marker is. Yarn over my hook, and then pull up a loop. So I have 3 loops on my hook. Now I'm going to work them off. So I yarn over my hook, draw through 2, yarn over my hook, draw through 2. Let's do that again. Notice I am saying yarn over, not yarn under. We're doing yarn overs. So we go yarn over our hook to begin with, go into the ring, yarn over our hook, and pull up a loop. So you have 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over my hook, draw through 2 of those loops, yarn over my hook, draw through 2 of those loops. So that's my first granny set. Now it's time we do a corner. Again, you know how to do this. It's just chain stitches. We chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Still working into this big ring right here. We're going to do 3 double crochets, or a granny set. So yarn over my hook, go into the ring, yarn over, pull up a loop. Yarn over my hook, pull through 2, yarn over my hook, pull through 2. So that's 1. Yarn over my hook, go into the ring. Yarn over my hook, pull up a loop. Yarn over my hook, draw through 2. Yarn over my hook, draw through 2. Yarn over my hook, go into the ring. Yarn over my hook, pull up a loop. Yarn over my hook, draw through 2. Yarn over my hook, draw through 2. See, there's 3 double crochets right there. So that's another granny set. Okay. Now we're over here in this other corner, so we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. We're going to do all of that again. So we're going to do 3 double crochets all into this ring. Yarn over your hook, go into that ring. Yarn over my hook, pull up a loop. Yarn over my hook, draw through 2. Yarn over my hook, draw through 2. Yarn over my hook, go into the ring. Yarn over my hook, pull up a loop. Yarn over my hook, draw through 2. Yarn over my hook, draw through 2. Yarn over my hook, go into the ring. Yarn over my hook, pull up a loop. Yarn over my hook, draw through 2. Yarn over my hook, draw through 2. We have to do a corner. 1, 2, 3 chains. So far we have 3 corners done, right? And 3 granny sets. We're going to do our 4th one here. I'm going to go ahead and take my marker out that's in the ring because I don't need it anymore, right? I have a pretty good idea of where that ring is, so I don't need it there. So we're going to do our 3 double crochets all into the ring. So there's 1, 2, and 3. Okay. Now we're going to do our corner over here. And when we're done with our chain 3, we're going to join to that chain right there that we put our marker in. We're going to join there with a slip stitch to complete the round. So 1, 2, 3. Right where that marker is, I'm literally just going to put my hook right where that chain is. Yarn over, pull up a loop, pull that loop through what's on my hook. I can remove this now. And now I've created right here. We have these four sets. So we did this granny set, this granny set, that granny set, and that one, right? And then in the corners, we have a corner right here, corner here, corner here, corner here. What you're going to notice is as we're working along, we're going to keep every time we're in a corner, we are going to work a granny set, chain 3, granny set, all in a corner space. Okay? All in a corner space. So we will work all the way around, and then every time we're in a corner space, we're going to work a granny set, a chain 3, a granny set. And as you do this with each round, you're going to work an extra granny set in the middle of the round. So that'll make sense here in a second. Okay. So we've come all the way around. We've joined with our slip stitch right here. We're now going to slip stitch in the top of the first double crochet and in the top of the second double crochet. And then we're going to slip stitch into the chain 3 space. All we're doing is we're moving our start point over here. So that way we can chain 3, which will count as a double crochet, and begin to work in the round right here. Okay. So let's go ahead. We're going to start off. We slip stitch in the top of the first double. So if you're looking here, we slip stitch right there. You can see that V right there at the top of this stitch. Just go into the back leg of that V, yarn over, pull up a loop, and then pull through the loop on your hook. Into the back leg of the stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, and pull through the loop on your hook. Into the chain 3 space, yarn over, pull up a loop, pull through the loop on your hook. All right. So now all I've done is I've just moved my starting point over here to this corner. And now we're going to do what we did here, only every time we're in these chain 3 spaces, we're going to create a corner. And this time the corner consists of a double, a chain 3, and a double. All right, so here we go. First one is a chain 3. So we're going to chain 3. That counts as a double crochet. Again, I'm going to take my marker and I'm going to put it into the third chain I created there. It's the V behind the loop on my hook. That's just so I know where I'm going to join at the end of my round. Yarn over my hook. I'm going to create 2 double crochets and I'm putting them all in this chain 3 space. So I don't have to go into any particular chain. I just go right into the space. So we have a granny set. Now we're going to chain 3 to create that corner. Now we're going to put another granny set in this corner. Every time you're at a corner, this is what you will do. So we'll put 3 double crochets here. Okay, you see that? Now we're going to jump all the way over here to this corner and do the same thing. Okay, so over here in this corner, we will, I'm going to say the same thing, but it's 3 double crochets, chain 3, 3 double crochets. So we aren't going to start with a chain 3. So I'm going to put over here, I'm going to do 3 double crochets. So 1, 2, 3, chain 3, and then 3 double crochets again in that same space. And I'm not talking through creating the double crochet anymore because I figure you probably have it by now if you've gotten to this point. But now we have 2 corners. So we're going to jump over here to this corner and do the same thing. So we're going to put 3 double crochets. Chain 3. And then 3 double crochets in that same space. One more corner. 3 double crochets. Chain 3. And then 3 double crochets all into that same chain 3 space. Okay. Now we do not have to do a chain 3 like we did last time to join because these are our corners. They're already created. So we actually just jump over here where our stitch marker is, put your hook into that chain and join with your slip stitch. And remove my marker. You can see here, we have corner, 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 corner. And in each corner, there are 2 granny sets. Okay, so once again, we started off here, then we did our chain 3, did our granny set, granny set, granny set, chain 3, granny set, chain 3, granny set, chain 3, and then our slip stitch. So remember those chain 3s, those are all here in our corners. Okay. All right. Now that we've done our slip stitch, so we did our slip stitch right here to join our round, we're going to move the start of our round over again so that we're in this corner. So we're going to slip stitch into the top of that double crochet like we did before down here, right? We're going to slip stitch into the top of that one, and we're going to slip stitch here into that chain 3. And then we're back in the same rhythm. We do our corner here, which is a granny set, chain 3, granny set. So I'm going to make this like, I'm going to go like this, right? So this is our corner. And then what's different about this round is between these 2 granny sets here, right? Between these 2, we're going to put a granny set right there in between there. And so, because we're making this bigger, this is where our increases are happening. So our increase is going to happen here, our increase is going to happen here, our increase is going to happen here, or our increase is going to happen here. I should actually rephrase that. Our increases are actually happening in the corner, but the result of the increase from the previous round is having those those double crochets there. But here's how we're going to do it. All right, so remember I got a slip stitch over to this point. So I just go into the back loop of that first one, back loop of that second one, into that whole chain 3 space, and I just did slip stitches all the way over. So it just moved my starting point over. Now I work my chain 3. Could put my marker into that third chain, so that way I know where I'm going to join at the end of my round. And now I work my corner here. So I will do 2 doubles here, because remember that chain 3 counted as a double. I'll do my chain 3 and my double, my granny set. 1, 2, 3. I know I'm going faster here because you've seen me do this, 3 times now. Okay, so you have a corner. Here's where things are different. So instead of jumping all the way over here, we're now going to put into this space, in that whole space, we're going to put a granny set. And with each round, you'll have more granny sets between your corners. Okay, so with this round right here in this space, I'm just going to put 3 double crochets. No chains, no nothing. Just do 3 double crochets. Now we jump to this corner and we do our granny set. And then chain 3. And another granny set all in the corner. You see that? So as I set this down, see if I kind of set it like this. This here is this. This here is this. And then this corner right here that we just did was all of this. So we're just going to keep going this direction. You just keep working all the way around. I'm going to find the space between those 2 granny sets. I'm going to put my 3 double crochets there. To my corner. So I do my corner set over here, which is the 3 double crochets, chain 3, 3 double crochets. Come here in this space. I see some of you working and some of you just watching. Remember that this is recorded, so you can just hang back and watch and try and grasp some things. If I get through this first one fast enough, I can start a second one so we can go through the beginning all over again, which will be incredibly helpful for many of you, I know. So I'm going to work through this as quickly as I can here, because I mean, you know these stitches at this point, and now that you know where to put the stitches. So let's just kind of work through here. Remember, you might not fully understand everything at the first time. Actually, the very first time I ever made a granny square, you guys, it was not pretty. I was like, this has to be one of the easiest things ever. Everybody makes a granny square. And what happened was, instead of having 4 corners, I only had 3 corners. And then my stitches were too tight and it was puckering up, and it was not a good thing. So I'm just letting you know, we all begin somewhere. Okay. All right, so I'm to the end of the round where my marker is. I put my hook right where my marker is. I work my slip stitch, remove my marker, and that's the end of my round 3. Now this only has 4 rounds, right? So on this last round, you can see instead of just 1 here between these 2 stitches, I'm going to have one here between these two granny sets, and then one here between these two granny sets. Everything else is the same, right? We still have the corners, and then you just repeat that again. So let's go through and see how we do this. Oh, so I have to slip stitch over to my corner. So I'm just going to slip stitch over to my corner. And I'm going to rock and roll through this round, okay? So that way we can do another one so you guys can see it made. Put my marker there. And away we go. Renee, if there are any questions or anything you want to ask as I'm going, I will be starting another one. So I'm hoping that those of you who are stuck with either the slip knot or the chains or what have you, you'll get another glimpse of how to do it.
Just had one question, and I think this is
Yeah.
like a great tip for anyone to weigh in on. Kathy said, my tail keeps getting in the way. Any tips to keep it clear?
So this tail back here, I let it be, and then when everything is said and done, I use a tapestry needle to weave it in. You could put it down at the beginning and just weave in your tail to get started with to get rid of it. Otherwise, I don't have a whole bunch of tips. I just keep moving it.
Totally possible that she might have left too long of a tail. What would you say would
Yes.
be like the minimum amount to keep?
So that is a very good question. And it's one that is there's a lot of debate out there. So because I am a big fan of weaving in your tails, do not just crochet over your tails, you guys. Especially as beginners, don't get in that habit, because as you give gifts away and people will wash their items, those tails will pop out. They won't stay crocheted in. So you need to weave in your tails. And to do that, you need to make sure that you have at least 4 to 6 inches of a tail. So I always leave 4 to 6 inches. I've left longer before, but I will not leave shorter, because it makes it nearly impossible to weave in a good amount so that your tail doesn't pop out. Especially as you're doing granny squares, that if you decide to do squares that you will be joining together with a seam, you'll have a ton of granny squares together to make a blanket. You don't want all those ends to pop out. So I always leave 4 to 6 inches. Always,
Yeah.
always.
Good call. I was just picturing it because the amount of times where I through learning to create a slip knot, just let this gigantic tail.
Right.
It's like, oh, that might have happened to her. She might be able to trim it a bit.
Yeah. Or conversely, there are so many times people are like, oh, I don't want to waste the yarn. I don't want to, like, it just, because it feels like it's a waste of yarn, right? Because you're not using it. But it's like, no, just trust me on this. Leave 4 to 6 inches, and then you can weave in the extra length as you go along with your tail, so that way it doesn't unravel, because that's a bummer when that happens.
Not a good time.
No, it's
And I
really
thought you
not.
would find this funny. You said one of your granny squares had 3 corners, and
Yes.
Jennifer Rose said it was a granny triangle.
It was a granny triangle. Actually, it looked I don't know. It's not appropriate to say what it looked like right now. It was not good, y'all. It was not good. It looked like a body part. It was not good.
It was an oops.
It was a big oops. I finished it. I was like, I looked at it. I'm like, oh, well, okay. What did I do here? And because I didn't understand the whole construction part, right? I was just following the written instructions blindly, which I get really lost in words for written instructions, which is why I like the charts, because I can read, like, for example, this is a lot of words. This is a lot of words. So I can go along and be like, all right, so I'm going to do that. And I come back here and they're like, okay, where was I? And so that's where I get really confused. Whereas if I'm looking at a chart like this, I can quickly see, because it's like a direct representation, right? So it becomes easier for me, but the words, they throw me off sometimes. And some of you will probably appreciate that. You'll be like, their crochet patterns are so wordy, and they absolutely are. It's because those knitters, they only have to work the stitches that are on their needle, right? That they know exactly where their stitch is every time. Crocheters are way more creative. If I wanted to come down here and put a stitch, I could. But my instructions would have to tell me to do that, right? Like, I could put a stitch here, I could put a stitch here, I could put a stitch here, I could put a stitch down here. There's so many places I could put my hook. So the written instructions for crochet are much longer, because you have to be very detailed on what the stitch is you're doing and where you're putting that stitch. How are you joining that stitch? Like, it's just a lot that happens.
Yeah, there's more room for error,
Yeah.
definitely.
All right, so
Also,
oh,
sorry,
can I just
very quick.
yeah.
Heidi asked, when you were slip stitching, are you going under both strands or into the stitch? I think she's asking like one loop
Yeah,
or two.
you can do either. I was just going through one. But you could go through both. You could go through like both like that. I was just going through the back one.
Okay.
Yep. Whatever you decide to do, just keep it consistent.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm at the end of my round here. So I'm going to do my slip stitch. And then I do a chain, cut my yarn, leaving 4 to 6 inches, and then just pull that through. And you have that. So I'll show you how to weave in here. So if you get a bent tip tapestry needle, these are really great. Just thread your yarn onto these. And then I'm on the back side of my work here, and I'm just threading this like through the stitch. And pull it down. And then I essentially go around in many different directions. I don't just like go one in like a circle. I go down and I'm threading through the stitches here, popping it back up. And it just makes it so that the piece will stay, or the tail will stay woven in a little bit better because it has more areas to try and have to get through, right? So I went through several different ways. Once that's done, snip it. Do the same thing down here. So down here, especially we did chains, so it's not going to come undone because we didn't do a magic ring. But I can come around here. I can go through a couple of these. And then I can just reverse my way back. Maybe pop it through one more time. So it's like I did 3. Snip it. And I did all that on the wrong side. So it's the opposite side. But then here's your granny square. So then there's my first one. There's my second one. Let's make another one. We have time. All right, everybody stretch. Stretch your hands. Stretch your arms. We're going to go through this one more time. All right, I'm going to take a drink of water real quick.
We got to pace ourselves at this marathon.
All right. So I'm going to pop that there. Start off with our slip knot. So I put the tail of the yarn in the palm of my hand, wrap my yarn around my fingers, and when I come back up, I cross over, go underneath the front, grab the back, and off. Put that on my hook, maybe. And then I'm going to chain 4. So let me see here. Let me do this. Let me see if I can. I'm going to move this whole thing out of the way since we went through it once, and I'm going to just try and come up here. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Now you don't have to do this, but I'm going to do this just to make sure we know where the ring is. I'm literally just putting a marker just around those 4 chains I just did. Okay. Now I'm coming back here to the first chain, put my hook into it, yarn over my hook, pull my hook through that chain. So now I have 2 loops on my hook. Then I pull that loop through that one through that one. So now I have a ring, which is hard to see if you don't have a marker there, but your marker, remember, it's just right in the middle of those. So you know exactly where we're going to do these stitches. So that's the start. Now we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. That chain 3 counts as a stitch. So right here, that V behind the loop on my hook, I'm going to put a marker in it. So that way I know that's where I'm going to join at the end of my round. Okay. All right. Here we go. Double crochet time. Yarn over your hook. Come over here where the circle is, right? So it's where that marker is. We're going to put our hook right into that ring. Yarn over, pull up a loop. So we have 3 loops on our hook. Now we work them off just like any double crochet. So yarn over your hook, draw through 2, yarn over your hook, draw through 2. We do that again. Yarn over our hook to start, insert into the ring, yarn over the hook, pull up a loop. So have 3 loops on your hook, yarn over your hook, draw through 2, yarn over your hook, draw through 2. All right. I'm going to use more markers on this round to try and help you guys out, okay? So we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. That chain 3 is going to be a corner. So just like I had you put a marker around your chain 4s when we were starting, I'm just going to have you put a marker around your chain 3. And it's going to help us like count how many corners we have. So we make sure that we get 4 corners. Okay, I'll just use the pink markers. Now, coming back to our ring here, we're going to do 3 double crochets again, all into the ring. So we do 1 double crochet, 2 double crochet, 3 double crochet, and stop. So now we're going to do a corner. So we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to put a marker around those chain 3s. So that way we can see where our corner is. You don't have to use these markers. I'm trying to use them to help you guys see. Okay. Now we're going to do the chain or the 3 double crochets again, still in the same middle spot. We do 1, 2, oops, and 3. I'm going to take my middle marker out because we can see it pretty well here. So I'm going to take that out. We're going to do our corner over here. So we chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Take your marker. If you're using them, just putting it over that corner. So that way I can count my 4 corners. I'm going to do another granny set, which is just 3 double crochets, still in that same big space. 1 double, 2 double, and 3 double. I have to do a corner over here, so I chain 3. I'll put my last marker there so we can count. Now I'm going to join. All right. So I marked that 3rd chain right there at the start because I know that's where I'm going to join. I'm literally just going to put my hook just right into that chain.
Ellie Allura or Allie Burr.
I'm sorry. She knows I'm teaching, but it's my daughter. So you put your hook into there, yarn over, pull up a loop, and pull through the loop on your hook. I will remove that starting round marker so you can see here. Extend that up. So now I have 4 corners here, right? 4 corners. It's because it's on the ground now, it's not going to focus. So 4 corners. What I will do, so I slip stitch right here. So I'm going to slip stitch into the top of this double, the top of this double, and into this chain 3 space. And it's over here. This is where I'm going to do those corner stitches, which is 3 doubles, chain 3, 3 doubles. So if I want to keep these markers here, I can, and I could just move them. When I get to the next chain 3, I just move them up. All right, so that's what I'm going to do. Okay. This is where we are. All right, so I'm going to have to focus my camera again. So I'm pulling it up here. Sorry, guys. Takes me a second. Trying to get you guys to see the best possible. Okay. So here we go. I'm going to slip stitch over. So I'm going to the top of this stitch. I'm just going into the back loop, yarning over, pull up a loop, and pull that through. Going into the back loop, yarning over, pulling up a loop, and pull that through. Go into this big space, yarn over, pull up a loop, and pull that through. And here we go. All right. So we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. and do 2 more doubles because that chain 3 counts as a stitch. We're going to pause for a second. Again, we're going to use our marker and put it into that 3rd chain we created. So we know that's where we're going to join to. So we do our 2 doubles. So here's 1 and 2. Right? That's our first granny set. Now we're going to do our corner. 1, 2, 3. I can take the marker that's down here and I'm just going to move it up. So it just keeps the corners in the same place. Yarn over your hook. Come down here in the same chain 3 space. And we will do our 3 double crochets. So we have our first corner made. Can you see that? That's our first corner. Now we're on row 2, which means there's nothing in between here we have to do. We have to just jump right over here to this next corner. So we jump all the way over here to this area here, and we're going to do our 3 double crochets. Chain 3 for the corner. I'm going to move this marker up. I'm going to put it here so that way we know where the corner is. And then I'm going to do 3 on this side, essentially, if you think of it as different sides, but it's still in the same chain 3 space. Okay, so we have 2 of them done. We have 2 more to go. So I jump all the way over here to the next corner. Put my 3 doubles. Chain 3. I'm going to move my marker up. In that same chain 3 space, I'm going to do 3 more doubles. Okay, now we have 3 of the corners done. Last corner. 1, 2, 3. 3 chains. That counts as my corner. Move my marker up. And 3 doubles. At the end of the round, so I'm going to join with a slip stitch right here to that 3rd chain that I marked. I just put my hook into it, yarn over, pull up a loop, and pull through the loop on my hook. Take that one out, extend that up so you can see here. But again, we have our 4 corners. How we doing? All right. Hopefully the markers help give you a visual of where those corners are so that you can see where you're putting those stitches, because half the time that's where the struggle is. Now on this next round, we're still going to keep our corners the same where our markers are, but now we have an extra stitch that's going to go right here between these 2 stitches. Okay. Vanessa, you are an overachiever. Vanessa is making a triangle, you guys. She says, who needs a square? I'm going to make a triangle. That's what I'm going to do. Ironically, actually, Vanessa, the triangle, you would do the same thing. You would put your corner stitches in all of your corners, and then on your path between your corners, you would put your stitches here and you would create a triangle. It's the same concept. It's just you have 3 corners instead of 4. It's the same concept. Okay, we're going to do the next round because I have 8 more minutes here. So let's try and get through this round the best we can. Remember, with each of the rounds on this, we're going to slip stitch over to our corner here. So I'm going to slip stitch over to each corner, 1, 2, and then I'm in the corner. So I slip stitch, and then let's see how fast we can get this one done. So I'm going to chain 3, which counts as my stitch. So I'm going to put my marker here in the 3rd chain. And then I'm going to do my 2 doubles to complete that granny set. Chain 3. I can move my marker up. And then do my 3 doubles over here in the same corner. Okay, now here's where it's different. And this is how it changes with each round. Each round, you're going to get more spaces here. So you're just going to put a granny set right here into that space. Okay. Perfect. Now I'm over here to this corner. So I do my 3 doubles. As you can see, as you get going, honestly, guys, as you get going, it becomes easier and you'll make silly mistakes because it's so easy. And so all of a sudden you'll skip a space and you're like, oh man, I didn't see it, just because you're in a hot rhythm, and it just becomes very easy to do. A lot of muscle memory, but it comes with time. It comes with practice. So like I said, like my first granny square was not a square. It was really bad. But clearly I practiced and I can achieve a granny square now. And I know that you can too, for sure. Okay. So give yourself some time. Don't be afraid to come back and watch this video. It might sound, there's a lot of stuff that might sound like Greek to you, like it just didn't make sense. But then as you get practicing and you rewatch the video, all of a sudden things that I said will become very clear, like the matrix, and you'll be like, oh my gosh, I see it now. It's just a learning curve. It's just a learning curve. Just know you can do this. I believe you. I believe in you. All right, so I made that corner. Now I'm in the space between the corners. The great thing about this particular granny square is you don't have chains between each of your granny sets. So it becomes really easy just to cruise along. Just doing lots of double crochets. Chain 3. The other thing is be cautious, because as you get more and more comfortable, you might be, crochet a little bit tighter, because you're not, you're comfortable with it. And so all of a sudden your coasters are all different sizes. So just try and keep your stitches the same size as your hook each time. As you pull up the loop, keep all those loops the same size as your hook, and you'll be more consistent and you'll get coasters that actually match. If you want to like spice up your coasters a little bit, something you could do, after the last round, if you wanted to do a round of just single crochets into each stitch and then put 3 single crochets in each of the corner, you could have like a little bit of an edging around each of them. You could even use a different color to do that if you wanted to, and you could, really make them unique. Use up more of the colors that you might be using for your coasters. All right, let's take a peek here. Ta-da! So we got through round 4. Got through round 4. How are we feeling? Yes. Yes, you definitely have to try this a few times. It's definitely something that you just take some practice. All right, so I'm going to work on the last round here because I have a little bit of time. Renee, I'm going to have you like what are you seeing out there? Talk me. So as I'm just crocheting here because I don't want it to be like silent. What did you make a
Oh,
granny? Have you made a granny square before?
I have not made one yet.
Are you
I will
serious?
get there. I was actually just about to type this out in the chat. It is so much quicker just to say it verbally. But
Uh-huh.
once you get the granny square down, there is like a whole world of like granny triangles that you make on purpose.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
There are patterns for granny triangles. There are granny rectangles. Or you can like fold a granny square into a bag.
Uh-huh.
So it's kind of a triangle. There's the
Yep.
granny hexagon, which is a really cool pattern. You'll
Yep.
see all over the crochet universe where
Yep.
it's like it's kind of a granny, it's like it's a stitch pattern.
Yeah.
And it was very,
Which-
very trendy in the
Yep.
70s. It goes in and out. It's definitely very much back in right now.
Right. There's the hexi-cardi. And then this whole concept, guys, of what we're doing here, just working in the round and working these stitches, like instead of a granny set here, if I want to do like a puff stitch or something, I could do that. Like there's variations of granny stitches or motifs, if you want to call them motifs.
Mhm.
So this is really a good way to enter into the world of motifs. And it just is a lot of fun to do. And like I said, I promise you, some of you might not feel like it right now, but as you get going and it becomes very, very repetitive, very comfortable, it's like potato chip crochet. Like you just sit down and you just do it. If you need a quick baby blanket, literally you could start this. Don't stop on round 4, just keep
Mhm.
going. Because each round, like I said, you're just going to get more and more of these. Like we have 1 here, we have 2 here, it would go to 3, it would go to 4, it would go to 5, blah, blah, blah. And so you could just keep working round, around, around, around and get yourself a baby blanket if you wanted to. Grab yourself some really pretty, like maybe striping yarn, variegated yarn, different colors of yarn. You could do all sorts of stuff. You could do all sorts of stuff and have
Totally.
a good time doing it. So this
And
really is, it's a gateway to a bunch of different stitches. For sure. I'm almost to the end, I think. Taking all those out as I go because I don't think I need them. I always feel bad when I'm crocheting really fast here at the end, but I want you guys to see it. So I'm like, I gotta go. Just keep going. This is the other thing. Like it starts off really fast, right? You're like, yeah, okay, I'm cruising. Then as it gets bigger and bigger each round, you're like, goodness gracious, am I at the end yet? And so, because it's just a lot more stitches, right? Just a lot more stitches. Let's see here. Just so you guys know, you can get the markers and the hook and the yarn. All of that is available at Michael's. The tapestry needle, same thing, bent tip tapestry needle. All of the supplies that I use today are available at Michael's. I also know at Yarn Inspirations, you can, they sell the hooks at Yarn Inspirations, right? Like, I'm sure
Yep,
they
we
do.
have them.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you do.
Yes, ma'am.
But you can
I'll
always
also
check.
say there's a really nice Susan Bates twist and lock
Oh,
hook
I
that
have,
is special to Michael's. Yeah, and it comes with, so it's similar, but the one at Michael's has a bag with it. You guys, this
yeah,
is like a multi-headed screwdriver basically,
yeah,
except for like
yeah.
hooks.
So I could change my I mean, I'm literally at the end of the row. So I'm gonna show you
Yeah,
one stitch.
maybe now's not the time,
One
but
little stitch here. But it's yeah, it works really nice. And it's double-ended, like I could put another one down there if I wanted to.
Mhm.
But yeah, these are really nice. What I love about the Susan Bates hooks, I love the point because I feel like I can really get into a stitch.
Mhm.
But there's your other coaster, guys. So we made 2 coasters.
So now you can invite a friend over.
Yes, you can do this. I promise you guys, you can absolutely do this. Just remember, like I said, give yourself some grace, give yourself some time. It takes time for your body to create those neural pathways, for your eyes to talk to your head, to talk to your hands, to know what's going on. And practice will make perfect. You can absolutely do this. All right. As you make your coasters, be sure to share with us on social media. Over on Instagram, I'm the Marley Bird. I'm Marley Bird everywhere else, but the Marley Bird on Instagram. You can use hashtag YarnSpo, which is the Yarn Inspirations hashtag to share your work. Or you could tag me. You could also tag Make It with Michaels. We would love to see your progress and give you a thumbs up. All right, so that's me. You can find more of my stuff over at marleybird.com and my YouTube channel, which is just Marley Bird. There you go. All right, Renee, all to you.
Oh, amazing. Yes, as Marley said, please, please, please post your progress pics. It makes our day, it makes our jobs. Like we just love what we do. We love seeing your guys' progress. So
Yes.
please, please, and use the tags hashtag Make It With Michaels and YarnSpo, which is YARNSPO. Tag Marley, tag the whole world. Even if it looks bad, tag all of us. We love to see it. And just a reminder that you will be able to find this recording tomorrow on the YouTube channel and continue to check back to Michael's this week because there's lots of good yarn related classes for I Love Yarn Week. So
Yeah.
if you were not a yarn stan before, I hope you are now.
Yeah. All right.
All right. That's it
All
for
right.
me. Thanks everyone.
Thanks, you say.
Bye.